Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I have a brand new Godlike 2 Not Quite for you all, which is essentially just my own personal version of a tier video. And for today, we are going to be looking at all 50 of the $1 billion club movies. So the big news over the weekend is that Top Gun Maverick, one of the year's best movies, finally hit that $1 billion worldwide box office mark. Which of course means it is the latest addition to the $1 billion club. So I figured why not celebrate this monumentous occasion by doing some sort of video. I was considering doing a full-blown ranking, but then I realized that I'd have to do like a whole script for that and 50 different graphics for the 50 different movies, and I wanted to get this out while the news was hot and fresh, so I figured why not do a tier video and I can just incorporate my ranking in there at the end as well. Some of you may be wondering too, are there 50 movies in the $1 billion club or 49? Well, with a little bit of research, there does seem to be one discrepancy, and it is actually over the 1994 original Lion King. For instance, on Rotten Tomatoes' updated ranking, which does include Top Gun Maverick, they did not include the original Lion King. However, if you Google the Lion King's box office numbers or look on IMDb or pretty much any other website, it seems like it did make over $1 billion with its numerous re-releases. So for the sake of having a nice round number for this video, I decided to include it as well. And once again, my ranking will be tacked on at the end of this video once the tiers and all the dust have settled. Before I hop into the actual tiering itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my Godlike 2 Not Quite tier videos. So be sure to check that out, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so without further ado, let's start tiering it up. Okay, so as always with these Godlike 2 Not Quite tier videos, I like to just take a brief moment at the start to go through my tiers for those of you who are new to the channel or are unfamiliar with my tiers because they are a bit personalized just to make them a little more me. So firstly, at the very top there in like the reddish, orangish, you have Godlike replacing the traditional God or S tier. Then replacing the traditional A tier, you have Awesome Sauce. Replacing the B tier is Good as Gold. For that C tier, we have Quite Alright. For the D tier, we have Superman. And down at the very bottom, we have Rock Bottom replacing the F tier. Of course, as always, I don't want to keep you folks here all day because I don't want to be doing this all day either, so I won't be giving like my full-blown thoughts, you know, an end-to-end, top-to-bottom review on each of these movies. I will be placing them in a tier and then just giving a brief little reason as to why I placed them in said tier. So we can just honestly jump right into things. First up is the Aladdin remake, and honestly, I've only seen this the one time when it was in theaters, and I remember it being super forgettable. That's what I remember about the movie. I remember Will Smith, I thought was great as the genie. Of course, no one can replace the great late Robin Williams, but I think Will Smith did a good enough job and was likely the best part of the movie. I thought the casting was fine, I thought the villain was weak, but aside from that, it was just a retelling of Aladdin, so you're better off just watching the original is what I'm trying to say here. The original is amazing. Alice in Wonderland, going right next to it. This is another one of those movies that it's hit or miss for some people. Some people really love this Alice in Wonderland remake, and also the first two movies up on the list is proof why Disney keeps doing these live action remakes, because they make money. This is the $1 billion club. These two movies made over $1 billion. But regardless, I digress. This Alice in Wonderland remake, it's a take it or leave it kind of thing. I mean, Johnny Depp is the Mad Hatter, just being Johnny Depp. You have Helena Bonham Carter. You know, it's one of those movies that you're either going to really enjoy or you're just going to think it's a bit of a mess. I find it's almost a little bit headache-inducing with the visuals and things like that. Definitely not necessarily my cup of tea, but I don't think it deserves to be quite in that rock bottom tier because I don't really think it's a rock bottom deserving movie. Aquaman, take it or leave it with me for Aquaman. I love the first Aquaman movie. Say what you want, of course, about, what's-her-face, Mira. Her name has just been scrubbed from my memory because I'm sick and tired of hearing it. Amber Heard. Say what you want about her, but the movie itself is just so much damn fun. It's probably like my third or fourth favorite of the DCEU movies. I just have a blast with it. I think visually it is the best looking movie since the next entry on the list, Avatar. I really do think that it is the best looking movie since the original Avatar in 2009. The fact that I don't even think it was nominated for best visuals to this very day blows my mind. It wasn't nominated at the Oscars, but Jason Momoa is great. The majority of the cast is great. The story, yeah, a bit formulaic, a bit generic, but it is just a big, dumb, fun, blockbuster popcorn flick. I have such a good time watching this movie every time I put it on, and no regrets at all for the awesome sauce tier. And you know what? I have no regrets for this next one either. Avatar also going in that awesome sauce tier. Look, I get it. It's Dances with Wolves with blue people. It's Fern Gully or whatever that movie's called with aliens. Like, I understand, but the thing is, I don't know why so many people are so quick to bash Avatar for being familiar when almost every single movie on this list is like a superhero movie or, it's a franchise movie or it's a this or that. We as consumers should be used to this by now, that there is very little original storytelling being done anymore in Hollywood, and that's just the truth. What is original out there nowadays is considered an indie film, is considered low budget, is considered to, fly under the radar. Not many people go to see it. That's just the truth. We as consumers just pretty much want the same thing over and over again, so I don't know why people are so quick to jump down Avatar's throat for being familiar. Me personally, it doesn't bother me at all. I think Avatar is the best of the bunch when it comes to the movies that it's apparently ripping off. I have a blast with Avatar. I have so much fun watching it, aside from it being arguably the best visually looking movie of all time until its sequel comes out. I don't see the issue with it. It's familiar, sure, but it's so much fun to watch. It's so enjoyable. I love the characters. I love the world of Pandora. Like I said, visually, arguably the best visually looking movie of all time, so I don't see the arguments here. I don't see why people hate on it so much. The only reason it doesn't end up being godlike is because it is a familiar story, but I still enjoy that familiar story a ton, personally. Age of Ultron, probably another controversial one. Age of Ultron is in my top 10 MCU movies as of right now. I say as of right now because the MCU is pumping out like 8 projects a year at this point, so inevitably one of them is going to be a hit and likely bump it out of that top 10 spot, because I think it's sitting right at number 10. But I defend Age of Ultron tooth and nail. I have since, 2015 when it first came out. I think it's every bit as good as the rest of the Avengers movies. Do I think it's the weakest of the Avengers movies? Yes, I do, but I do still think it's like a 10 out of 10 movie. I enjoy the ever-living shit out of Avengers Age of Ultron. I don't see why so many people bash it. Yes, I guess I understand that Joss Whedon nowadays is not a very popular person, and for good reason, but I don't think that should take away from the work that everyone else put into the movie, and I think it's a great fun time, and I always enjoy watching Age of Ultron, among my favorite MCU movies. And when there's like 30 plus projects at this point or whatever, it's pretty impressive to be in the top 10, I would say. The First Avengers is going to be the first one in our godlike tier. Once again, I understand Joss Whedon and everything that he's done, and he's probably still under investigation for some things and definitely being looked into. Don't get me wrong, the guy, I'm not praising him. I'm praising the work of everyone else involved. I'm praising the team dynamic, the actors coming together. I'm praising the fact that this was 4 years of build-up with a bunch of solo movies, and this was it. It was do or die for the MCU. If this movie wasn't a hit, then who knows where we would be with the MCU right now. Not only was it a hit, but it blew my socks off. It is in my top 3 favorite movie theater experiences of my life. I will never forget going to see that with my friends on opening night, and it's still among my very favorite movies of all time and among my favorite of the MCU movies. I adore the First Avengers movies, plain and simple. First Avenger movie, sorry. Beauty and the Beast, going right next to the rest of the super mad Disney live action remakes. Look, I'm not a fan of them. Some of them are okay. The Jungle Book one I love, for instance. I thought the Jungle Book one was great, and it was well done, because when you amplify the material, that's what I'm looking for. But when you're just telling the same generic story with a fresh coat of paint and some live action actors in there, and it is what it is. Like, it's fine, but like Beauty and the Beast, I watched it. I thought it was all right, but am I going to watch it again? No, I'm going to go watch the original, not the remake. And that's just the way it is. But again, proof is in the pudding, folks. Another live action Disney remake, and this is not the last to be in the $1 billion club either. So when you're pumping out these movies and you're making $1 billion almost every single crack, why the hell wouldn't you? So for people complaining about Disney making these live action remakes, stop going to see them, and they'll likely stop making them. You speak with your wallets, right? Not angry Twitter rants. That's kind of how it works. Black Panther, I'll put it in awesome sauce. It could potentially be in godlike. This movie has grown on me exponentially before the passing of Chadwick Boseman, which of course, RIP to one of the great ones. Devastated. I actually have yet to rewatch Black Panther since Chadwick Boseman passed away, because it just hurts my heart to even think about the situation and think about the fact that he is actually gone. But Seeing Black Panther, I thought it was great when I first saw it, but I didn't absolutely love it. I wasn't like going goo goo gaga over it like the rest of the world seemed to be. I did really enjoy it, and it was definitely in the upper half of what the MCU had to offer at the time. But after numerous rewatches at home, really appreciating the intricacies of the world and the story and the lore, as well as just how much heart director Ryan Coogler and the rest of the cast and crew put into this movie, I can't help but fall in love with it, and I do absolutely love it. Do I still have some issues with it? Yeah, for sure. They wasted my boy Ulysses Claw. I absolutely adore Andy Serkis as an actor and as a human, so the fact that he was gone in such an unceremonious way really did crush me. I wish we got more of him because I find he's super entertaining, and he was unbelievably entertaining in that movie. Regardless, I still do think it is an absolutely fantastic movie and more than worthy of being in the awesome sauce tier, for sure. Captain Marvel, not quite going in the rock bottom tier yet. Trust me, there are some in here that will make their way down there. Superman, though, it's definitely towards the bottom. Probably my bottom 5, if not like 3 or 4 of the MCU. Do I think it's a bad movie? No, not by any means. I think it's just perfectly okay. Like, it's just enjoyable. I've never been one to rush to rewatch it. I'll rewatch it when I do my MCU rewatches and things like that. But it's far from my favorite. It's far from any of my favorites, for that matter. I'd still score like an easy 7 out of 10 or whatever, because I do think it's a fun, enjoyable watch, and I do like Brie Larson in the lead role, and I like Samuel L. Jackson being back and in a bigger role and things like that. I loved Ben Mendelsohn in it as well, but aside from that, it is what it is. It's just kind of another one of those like generic superhero Marvel movies, and what can you do? Captain America: Civil War, boop. Fun fact, godlike tier. You saw that, by the way. Fun fact, this was my favorite MCU movie until another one actually on this list came out. Now it's my second favorite MCU movie, but for a good few years. I think it was, 3 years? 4 years, 2 years, whatever it was. I know what it was. I just don't want to give it away. No spoilers. Civil War was my favorite MCU movie. I love everything about it. I love that it takes a more grounded approach, and that it takes a look from the civilians' perspective, and that these superheroes need to be in check because of all the damage that they're causing, the collateral damage and things like that. It just took a different look at superheroes and put a new perspective on things, and I really appreciated that. And then I think that the whole conflict between the two sides and who chose what side and all these other little things, I think it's an absolutely stupendous movie. I adore it top to bottom. 10 out of 10. It's in my top probably 50 favorite movies of all time. And I've seen a fair few movies, and I love Captain America: Civil War. Every time I rewatch it, I find something new to love about it, and I just continue to love it more and more. Despicable Me 3. Wow. I'll put it in Super Mix. I don't feel I can justify quite putting it in Rock Bottom. Rock Bottom is reserved for the ones that just aren't good movies. And I don't think there's going to be many actually in the $1 billion club that end up down in that tier. I'm looking through it now. That's why my eyes aren't like dead on the camera. Because there really aren't many that I don't think are going to end up down there, because I don't think it's a horrible movie. I just think it's insanely forgettable, like kind of the rest of them that are in this super met tier. I saw it in theaters at the time when it first came out. My girlfriend and I went, and I remember it being like, okay, I laughed, I chuckled a little bit here and there, it had some heart, but it was a kids movie that just felt like a really generic kids movie. Kids loved it. That's why we're getting a new Minions movie this very weekend. But for me personally, it was just kind of a forgettable little, whatever, right? I went to see it, and it is what it is kind of thing. Wow, we're kind of really just piling up on the same tiers here. Okay, we'll put one in quite all right finally. Finding Dory. It's more of the same. I understand that like they went with like The Finding as the what they kind of want to go with for making the sequel, because obviously you have a lot of sequels at this point with Pixar. You have Cars 1, 2, 3, Toy Story 1, 2, 3, 4, as well as Lightyear. You have Monsters Inc. and Monsters University, which took a very different spin, which is an incredibly underrated movie. Finding Dory stuck with the Finding moniker, Finding Dory stuck with the Finding moniker from the first, Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, and what do? They find Dory. I like that they went with a new setting, and it was in this like water park aquarium place, and there was lots of fun, exciting new little adventures to go on, little tasks to solve. A bunch of new characters that I really enjoyed, but at the end of the day, it did feel just very, very familiar, and that's why I'll put it in the quite alright tier and not much higher. And here we are. Yeah, another MCU movie in the godlike tier. I am a big MCU fanboy, and I have no regrets at all, and I feel no need to apologize. Avengers End Game is that movie that stole the #1 spot from Captain America: Civil War. It is my favorite theater experience of my entire lifetime. I laughed, I cried, I cheered. I felt every emotion on the known human spectrum. Every time I rewatch it, it hits me the exact same. I think it was the perfect finale, a culmination of 11 years of hard work, 11 years of build-up. The MCU is still going, not quite as strong in my opinion. I am still enjoying it, but it definitely isn't reaching the heights that much of the Infinity Saga did. However, Avengers End Game I adore. It is probably, I think it is in my top 5. I'm trying to think. I do have like a list on Letterboxd, and I believe I currently have it in my top 5 favorite movies of all time because that theater experience will stick with me for as long as my memory allows it to, and it's definitely in the godlike tier. Fate of the Furious, also going in that super meh tier. Yeah, this is where I started to check out from the franchise. It was riding a high, and I will forever say every single time one of these new Fast and Furious movies comes out that they should have ended after 7. They were riding a high, ladies and gentlemen. Fast 5 is the best in the franchise, in my opinion. Fast and Furious 6 did a lot of what Fast 5 did right, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Furious 7, paired with the passing of Paul Walker, I think was the perfect swan song for the franchise. I think there was a lot of fun to be had in there. Also done by, you'll see it's coming up soon, somewhere in the list. I think I named it Furious 7, and I named this one like Fast 8 or something, so it's somewhere else down the... Yeah, there it is. I think they should have ended with Furious 7. I really do. Fate of the Furious, there's still fun, enjoyable moments, but it's where the decline started, and I think Hobbs and Shaw kind of stayed on the same path as Fate of the Furious, and then F9 is my least favorite of the franchise. I don't know if it ended up here or not. I don't think it did, thankfully. Yeah, I don't care for F9 at all. That definitely would have been in the rock bottom tier. But Fate of the Furious is where the franchise started to hit a major decline for me, and it's continuing on that downwards trend. So, super meh for that one. Frozen 2... I'll put it quite alright. I would have considered super meh, but I do remember some of the songs. They were catchy. They did get stuck in my head. I did have fun watching the movie. It took me a really long time to watch the first Frozen movie just because I didn't get all the hype. I stayed clear of it. And then like 3-4 years after it came out, I finally watched the first Frozen, and then I went to see the second one when it released in theaters, and I had an okay time, which is I might as well just continue on. Frozen, the first one, is next. I'll also put that in the quite alright tier. I'm not a Frozen guy. I much prefer, I think, like, Moana is marginally better. I think Tangled is a lot better than Frozen. They have catchy songs, for sure. Does it have likable characters? For sure. Does it have stunning animation? Absolutely. I enjoy them, but they're not ones that I'm always clamoring to rewatch. I've only seen them, like, once or twice each. And then, like, I'm good. I wouldn't really care if I never watched Frozen again or not. So, quite alright is where I'm sticking with those ones. Furious 7, as I said, I think it was the perfect swan song for the franchise. I think they did a lot right. Director James Wan came on board, and he gave us this, like, the biggest, most insane, craziest, but fun-filled movie of the Fast saga. And I think it really should have been the end of things right then and there. It wasn't. They continued on past that, and they're continuing down and down and down. However, Furious 7, I still have an absolute blast with every time I turn it on. Now we have the first Hobbit movie, the only one of the Hobbit trilogy to crack into the $1 billion club. It is an unexpected journey. I put it in as good as gold. It changes a little bit every time I rewatch the Hobbit trilogy. No matter what, I would put The Desolation of Smaug, or Smog, or however you say it, at that number 1 spot, and then I switch back and forth between Battle of the Five Armies and An Unexpected Journey between that 2nd and 3rd place. Look, I love the Hobbit movies, and that is what it is. I'm a huge defender of the Hobbit trilogy. I think that they're a ton of fun. I always enjoy watching them. I understand that they're, like, bloated, and the CGI isn't great, and it's all CGI, and people just wanted the Lord of the Rings again, and that's not what they got, but I still have such a great time watching the Hobbit trilogy. And I don't know, I always defend these movies. I don't understand the hate. I understand people maybe not liking them as much as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because they're definitely not as good as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but I don't understand where people hate it with their entire being, like every fiber of their body. I really don't get that. So, yeah, but good as gold for The Hobbit, the first one in that tier. Harry Potter 1. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. If you're from the States, the US of A, you call it the Sorcerer's Stone. I call it the Philosopher's Stone. The first Harry Potter is among, I think on my ranking, my last ranking, I gave it my 3rd favorite in the franchise. I'm surprised to see how many people put it at the bottom. Yeah, sure, some things haven't aged that well in it, but I love it. It's the one I've watched the most in the franchise. It's among the movies I've watched the most in my entire life, and it is right up there for arguably my favorite, like, just comfort movie. Anytime I'm feeling sick, anytime I'm feeling happy, anytime I'm feeling anything, I'm in the mood to watch the first Harry Potter movie. During Halloween, I watch it. During summer, I watch it. During Christmas time, I watch it. I adore Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And the runner-up of my Harry Potter ranking, occasionally considered to be my favorite, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I think it was the perfect conclusion. It's a 10 out of 10 movie, and I really don't have anything else to say about that, because obviously I don't want to get into spoilers, because there is actually a surprising amount of people that are just watching the Harry Potter movies or just reading the books for the very first time, even today, when it's been over a decade since this movie came out, over a decade since the books concluded. Watch the Harry Potter movies if you haven't, and that's all there really is to it. Iron Man 3. Yeah, another one that's a controversial pick on this list. Apparently I'm filled with hot takes on this list today. Iron Man 3, I also think, is among the MCU's best offerings. It's not my top 10 currently, but it was for the longest time. I love Iron Man 3, and I defend it like I've said multiple times in this video. I defend it tooth and nail. I think it's an awesome movie. I enjoy it so much. There have definitely been times that I've even considered to be my favorite of the Iron Man trilogy. I think it's just so entertaining, and I love the villains in the movie. I love the story and the way it plays out. I think the action goes bigger and better and harder than any of the other Iron Man movies, and Shane Black's direction wins me over every single time, and I love the comedy in it, and I love Tony's story and dealing with the PTSD from the events of the first Avengers movie, so I really have very few flaws with the movie, and I enjoy it a lot. Incredibles 2, I'm barely stopping to take a breath here. The Incredibles 2 ends up in the quite alright tier. I don't think it's necessarily deserving as a movie to be down there, because I do think there's actually so much to enjoy in it, but it's because we waited so long, and then it didn't really deliver in my mind. Again, still a lot to love. I love the focus on Elastigirl. I love that it gives us more heroes, but there's also a lot of things that were disappointing. I was super disappointed in the villain. I didn't like the villain as a villain. I didn't like the villain reveal. I thought all that was super predictable. I didn't really enjoy it all that much. There are, again, elements that are really great in the movie and that are just as good, arguably, as the first movie, but then there are elements that were disappointing, and the disappointment is even bigger because we waited so long to get this sequel. So that's why it ends up in the quite alright tier. Now we have Avengers Infinity War, another Avengers movie, another MCU movie, Marvel movie, Disney movie, whatever you want to say, ending up in the godlike tier. Avengers Infinity War is like right there with Civil War. I think I have it as my third favorite currently, third or fourth favorite in the MCU. I love Infinity War. I think it's every bit just as good as Civil War and Endgame. And what else can you say about it, right? It's another MCU movie. Joker. Apparently, this is another controversial pick to some people. Some people love Joker. Like one of my best buds, actually, my former editor, Riley, it's like one of his favorite movies of all time. I think it's incredible. I would say it's a 10 out of 10 movie. It's probably in my top 50 or so favorite movies of all time. I love it. I think Joaquin Phoenix gives the performance of a lifetime, one of the best leading performances of the last decade or so. And I love everything about it. I know that it is basically what the King of Comedy meets Taxi Driver and a few other, like, there's definitely a huge, heavy Scorsese influence, but it worked for me. It was an origin story that was dark, and it was twisted, and it was messed up, and everything about it works for me. I love the score. It is one of my favorite movie scores out there. Again, with Phoenix's performance, I thought Todd Phillips' direction was very solid. The sequel, I'm not down for that. I think this is a perfect one and done, especially now that we're hearing rumors of a musical sequel. I'm going to go see it, obviously, for the sake of the channel, but I don't want it. I think Joker is a perfect one and done flick, and I wish they'd kind of just left it at that, but I guess we'll see how things turn out. Jurassic Park. Godlike. Yeah, it's one of the best movies ever made. It's an absolute classic. Steven Spielberg, among his finest work. One of the most imaginative, wonderful, it captures that feeling unlike any other movie out there, really. And I adore it. I simply adore Jurassic Park. I revisit it very often, and I see no reason to not include it in the godlike tier. However, the next two, not so much. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I just did all my Jurassic coverage when Dominion came out, so you can hear my thoughts during my ranking and things like that. Fallen Kingdom is like fine. I feel like I like it more than most people. I think, the stuff with the volcano is exciting and intense, and I like that they tried something different by making the last act of the movie more of like a straight up horror movie. So I think there are good elements in here, but it is definitely a more bland story. It's a bit more long and drawn out than it needs to be, and there's just elements in there that really don't work, like the cartoonish villains and whatnot. So things that are good, things that are bad, but it's definitely towards the bottom of the Jurassic franchise, and definitely towards the bottom, and definitely deserving to be in that Superman tier among that company. Jurassic World, though, I think is great. I think it's the best Jurassic sequel. It's the one that comes the closest to recapturing that magic of the original. There are definitely elements in there that make it more of just the typical, especially for the time, just like, you know, the generic blockbuster stuff, like lots of explosions, and it's really CGI heavy and things like that. And I understand that some people just see it as like, oh, it's just, you know, another generic big dumb action movie or whatever. There are definitely elements in there of that, but I do also think that it has plenty of elements that were pulled straight from the original Jurassic Park, elements that people adored in that movie, and I personally still adored in Jurassic World. It was kind of just a modern take. I thought that was great, so it works for me. I think it's a super enjoyable movie. The original Lion King, one of the best animated movies of all time, absolutely for sure, hands down. Doesn't quite go in the godlike tier because for me personally, there are a lot of other animated movies out there that I just connect more with and that I enjoy a bit more, but it's not going anywhere below Awesome Sauce because I 100% have to recognize that, yes, it is among the best and most influential and important animated movies ever made, and I do adore it. I really do. So the Lion King remake, however, rock bottom. Look, I probably could have put this in the Superman tier, but not only does it just tell the exact same story as the original Lion King, but at least there are elements that were enjoyable in those other Disney live-action remakes that are in the Super Meh tier. They at least try to change some things up or add in some things or kind of change the tone a little bit. But I'll give them this. It is one of the best-looking, just fully CG animated movies I have ever seen. However, I think they went too realistic because there's no emotion from the characters. It's just people delivering lines and they're coming out of a lion's mouth, but the eyes are just dead. There's no emotion there. You don't feel anything. It looks pretty, but that's it. That's it. And, again, as you can see from this list, you get no points for me because the story is just the exact same as the original, except now you give us a bunch of really good-looking CGI animals, but there's no soul there. There's nothing to connect with. There's nothing to love. There's nothing to admire or adore, aside from how they look. So, rock bottom for that one. Return of the King, yep, it's in my top three favorite movies of all time. It is arguably the most epic conclusion of all time, one of the best movies. It is more than deserving of its 11 wins of 11 nominations when it comes to the Oscars. One of the most winningest movies at the Oscars of all time, did its full clean sweep thing. It deserves all of the praise to this very day. It still does. It is epic, it is emotional, it is powerful, it is impactful, it is perfect. And I love it, and it's going to end up in the godlike tier. Minions, yeah, another one. Look, some people might dislike me for that one. Fans of the Despicable Me franchise. Minions has no reason, in my opinion, for existing, aside from just making $1 billion. And now we have a second one coming out, and I don't really know why. I think this franchise would have been benefited from just being a one and done, but, where there's money, studios are going to sniff it out like sharks in the water looking for some blood, and they're going to just keep going at it, and that's what's happening. We have, our 5th, 6th Minions movie, Despicable Me movie. At this point in the franchise, I checked out long ago. Will I still see it? Yeah, probably for the sake of doing a ranking or something. Do I want to see it? No, absolutely not. So, yeah, it is what it is. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Probably my second favorite of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, which you might like, that might not mean much to you, but the first 3 movies are some of my favorite, most enjoyable movies I have ever watched. The first Pirates of the Caribbean is my favorite. Curse of the Black Pearl, that is a 10 out of 10 movie for me. One of my favorites of all time. I feel like Dead Man's Chest came like this close to being just as good, but it's ever so slightly under, and I may as well continue with this one. On Stranger Tides, I think it's the worst of the Pirates franchise, personally. It doesn't come anywhere near close to being anywhere near as good as the first 3. There are still elements that are fun and enjoyable, like I like Ian McShane as Blackbeard, for instance, and of course, Jack Sparrow as a character, Johnny Depp in that role, is always going to be a fun time. It's always going to be good, goofy fun to watch. However, the story I don't like, and I just think it's a bland, kind of boring movie, aside from those parts in it that are really Jack Sparrow focused. Next, we have Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So close to getting in that godlike tier. I kid you not. I love Rogue One. There have definitely been times, multiple times, even now if I rewatched all the Star Wars movies, I could potentially consider this my favorite Star Wars movie. You know, sue me. Whatever you want to say or do, I don't care. I unapologetically love Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I think it gets into the darker side of Star Wars by showing what the Empire really does when they're occupying these planets. I think it puts us right into the action. I think it gives us some lovable characters. Do they get as much time to grow and for us to connect with them, attach to them as the rest of the trilogy? No, because they're not trilogy characters. They're one and done characters, but it doesn't make me love them any less. I think they're all unique. I think they're all special. I think they were all fun to watch on screen, and I enjoyed this movie so very much, and awesome sauce. Skyfall, this is a close one. Oh, Skyfall. Oh, I don't know. Skyfall's a tough one. A really, really tough one. I'm like trying to compare the movies in the godlike tier and compare the movies in the awesome sauce tier. I am going to put Skyfall in godlike. I think last time I rewatched Skyfall, I might have bumped my rating up to a 10 out of 10. I do think it is my favorite of the James Bond 007 movies. I think it's my favorite of the Craig movies. I think that this is Daniel Craig's best performance of the 5 movies that he was in. I think that the direction is absolutely superb. I think that Javier Bardem is the best of the Bond villains. I love the score. I love Adele's Skyfall. Everything about this movie is simply excellent, and I freaking love it. So, godlike. Why not? Spider-Man Far From Home, good as gold, could potentially end up in awesome sauce. Upon my most recent rewatch before No Way Home, I did enjoy it more than the last few times I watched it. However, there are elements that I just don't really care for that much. Do I love Jake Gyllenhaal as the villain? For sure, but I don't like that he's kind of just a glorified Iron Man villain, really, that just kind of takes out his anger on Spider-Man, or really more so Spider-Man is just interfering with his plans. I don't think even for a second, despite it being set in the MCU with all the technology that is there, that this whole drone illusion thing would ever work. Yeah, there are just some things that I didn't really care for too much in it. There's a lot of fun to be had. 100% absolutely, but it just doesn't necessarily end up in my favorites. But the next one, however, Spider-Man No Way Home, absolutely one of my favorite. It was probably my favorite movie. I'm trying to think back. Yeah, I think it was my favorite movie of 2021. It was everything I wanted it to be and more. I only have a couple issues with it. For instance, like, I dislike how, like, Sandman and Lizard, for instance, kind of just became glorified henchmen and were a shadow of their former villainous selves. But that's really my only gripe. Sometimes I feel like in the final act, it jumps around a bit too much and it's kind of hard to focus on everything that's going on screen. But aside from that, I mean, they freaking did it. They brought Toby and Andrew back. I know I said I was going to stick away from spoilers, but you got to know that by now. Everyone got that spoiled if you didn't see the movie, and if you did see the movie, then you were losing your mind like me. This is probably my second or third favorite theater experience ever. My crowd was going absolutely nuts, and I'll never forget it. Spider-Man No Way Home, godlike, ladies and gentlemen. The Rise of Skywalker. Oh, I could do it, but I won't. Could have put it in rock bottom. Was this close? The more I think about this movie, the more I rewatch Star Wars movies, the more I think about Star Wars and talk about Star Wars, the lower down the list it gets. It could, at this point in time, be my least favorite of the Star Wars movies. Is it a horrible movie? No, it's just massively, massively disappointing. Star Wars The Force Awakens, however, is right next to Rogue One in being like my second or third favorite Star Wars movie. Is it just A New Hope retold? Yeah, definitely. But there's a lot of new elements in there, a lot of things that got modernized. It picks up the pace, and I think it's truly brilliant. Just like the next one, The Last Jedi. Also an awesome sauce. Say what you will. Hate me. You come after me in the comments. Dislike the video, whatever you want to do. The Last Jedi is just amazing. It really is. It is one that has grown on me. When I left the theater opening night, I thought it was good, but I had issues. But over time, I just simply adore Rian Johnson's storytelling. I love that he subverted expectations rather than spoon-feeding us the same Star Wars story that we had gotten in 2 previous trilogies. I like that he tried to make Rey not connected to anybody. I like how he went and made Kylo the full-blown villain. I think it's the best-looking Star Wars movie we have. I like Luke's story arc that, sometimes your heroes, they fall from grace. Sometimes people have these fleeting moments of doubt, and I love everything about The Last Jedi. Is it among my favorite Star Wars movies? No, it's probably like the 5th or 6th spot, but I still think it's an awesome sauce kind of movie. Unlike this next one, Superman. Yeah, Phantom Menace. Do I like it more with the passing of time? Definitely. I do think there's enjoyable elements in there. I like everything to do with Palpatine. I like everything to do with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. I like, actually scratch that, love the Duel of the Fates with Darth Maul. Yes, the dialogue is bad. Yes, there's goofy, clunky stuff. Yes, Jar Jar is the worst thing in Star Wars lore. But everything, you appreciate it more when you get older, I find. I like the political side of all of it. I like seeing Palpatine's manipulation of the Senate and everything like that, and to getting himself into a position of power and manipulating the Jedi to do his bidding, and then also being Darth Sidious and things like that. I think all that stuff is fan-freaking-tastic. However, you know what? Actually, because of that, I'll bump it up. I don't think it's as bad as The Rise of Skywalker, so I will bump it up to quite all right, and do so happily. The Dark Knight, potentially my favorite movie of all time. Right now, the movie that is my favorite movie of all time is not on this list. Didn't make $1 billion. The Dark Knight, however, no matter how many times I watch it, it's still a 10 out of 10. You have Heath Ledger's legendary performance, but I think Christian Bale is every bit just as good. Aaron Eckhart as well. Michael Caine. Christopher Nolan's masterful direction. There's never a dull moment. Despite its 2.5-hour runtime, you absolutely do not feel it. I think it's one of the best movies ever made, and it's among my favorite movies of all time. In fact, there have been times, and maybe even with more passing of time, that it could be my favorite movie of all time. So, of course, it's going to end up in godlike. The Dark Knight Rises, yeah, people are going to come after me for this one too. All kinds of hot picks, hot takes, hot whatever you want to say. The Dark Knight Rises, I think, actually got very close to being just as good as The Dark Knight. I also got a lot of flack for this one, and actually a surprising amount of people that agreed with me with my last Batman movie ranking. I actually put this one in 2nd place above The Batman, which I also thought was brilliant. But The Dark Knight Rises, sure, there are some plot holes, but I think it's an epic, grand, perfect conclusion and finale to the Dark Knight trilogy. I love Tom Hardy as Bane. Yes, the twist with, Talia al Ghul does come from a mile away. Yes, her death is goofy and stuff like that, but again, people pull that 13-second clip and say that the whole movie's bad. The movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, and because there's 13 seconds where there's a goofy death, you say it's a bad movie? The movie is absolutely exceptional and a godlike movie. That's all there is to it. That's all I gotta say. Age of Extinction, however, is not that. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite Star Wars. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite Transformers movie. There's still some enjoyable mayhem in there for sure, but it is just disgustingly, egregiously, unnecessarily long. And so much of it is just boring filler. I don't love Mark Wahlberg as our leading man. I don't like any of the side characters. Does it look pretty? For sure. It is a great looking movie. It's a huge, big budget Michael Bay movie. Of course, it's going to look fantastic, but it's not a good movie by any means. Can I watch it? Sometimes, if I'm in the mood, if I'm binge watching Transformers, but it's among the ones I'm least likely to put on because of its nearly 3-hour runtime and just how much of it is boring filler. Dark of the Moon, however, I think is great. I really do. I enjoy Dark of the Moon. If you want to call it a guilty pleasure, call it that. I call it pure entertainment. It is Bayhem at its finest. It is big, explosive, mindless fun. I think that there's a few good twists and turns in here. I like how this is the first time we see kind of a full-scale invasion of Earth and stuff like that, even if it's on a smaller scale. It's in Chicago and stuff like that. But yeah, I think this movie is just so much fun to watch. I watch it frequently. There have definitely been times that I consider it to be my favorite Transformers movie, and this is coming from someone who is actually a pretty big fan of the Transformers movies. I love the first 3 Transformers movies. I grew up on them, and I still enjoy them because I have so many fond, nostalgic memories for them. Next up, Titanic. Awesome sauce. People call it the generic, sappy love story chick flick. It's boring. It's too long. It's this. It's that. aside from being one of the best looking movies visually, both in terms of its actual visual effects that were groundbreaking at the time, as well as the actual, like, you know, redesigning of the Titanic and the interiors and, you know, the practical and stuff like that, I think it's one of the best love stories ever told. James Cameron's one of my all-time favorite directors, one of my biggest inspirations and influences. Leo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, some of their finest work. I think it's fantabulous, so I put it in awesome sauce without a regret. This one will be an interesting one because Top Gun Maverick is so good. But looking at Godlike, I'll put it in awesome sauce for now. I do definitely see potential with multiple rewatches and with the passing of time. I can see Top Gun Maverick ending up in the Godlike tier. I loved it. I have a few little nitpicks, a few little issues for sure, but that doesn't mean that they won't go away as I rewatch this movie, which I am absolutely stoked to rewatch it whenever I get the chance to. It's among 2022's best movies and will likely remain that way. One of the best legacy sequels ever made. And yeah, I think it's really superb top to bottom. Toy Story 3, perfect finale, perfect conclusion. They should have ended the story there. I did a whole other video on that years ago. I still forever stand by it. Possibly my favorite movie ending ever made. I think it is flawless. I think the movie is great. I have a few little nitpicks with it, again, and you'll hear me that often. That's what, like, a lot of the awesome sauce movies is, like, they're godlike movies that have a few little nitpicks that kind of drop them down, because I'm pretty sure, like, every movie right now in this awesome sauce tier is, like, an 8.5 or a 9 for me. Toy Story 3 is no different. I think it's bloody magnificent. It is phenomenal. It is a great movie. However, the same cannot be said for Toy Story 4. Has it grown on me ever so slightly? When I first watched it in theaters, I was very... nothing. I wasn't disappointed. I didn't love it. I liked it enough, but it just felt like an unnecessary cash grab. As much as I can rewatch it and say, you know what, it is a fun little adventures with some of my favorite characters, it'll never escape the fact that it just feels so unnecessary to me. And I get it. Movies don't have to justify their existence to me. I'm one person. This movie made over $1 billion. However, this is my video. This is my personal take on things. And I think that it's an unnecessary movie that never really justifies its existence and kind of ruins the ending of Toy Story 3. Some people see it as the epilogue. That's the way I choose to see it, so that way I'm not pissed off that it exists. However, I don't think it needs to exist. So that's just my take on Toy Story 4. Zootopia, I don't know. I'll put it in good as gold. It could end up in awesome sauce, but the thing is, I have only watched it one time. Did I really, really dig it? For sure. I really do think it was a great movie. With rewatches over time, could it end up in awesome sauce? Absolutely. I think it is a fantastic, very intelligent, very fun and exciting and memorable animated feature. However, I haven't seen it enough to put it up there with the likes of movies that I've seen so many times. Like, I'm looking at, like Transformers Dark of the Moon that I have so much fun watching. Like Toy Story 3, like Age of Ultron, or Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and things like that. Yeah, I know Top Gun Maverick is new, but that movie left such an impression that it does deserve to be in the awesome sauce tier for sure. And now it's time for a quick little ranking. This is the way it works for the rankings, of course. So this first spot here where the first Avengers movie is the number 1 spot, then number 2, then it goes how many movies I have? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 in the godlike tier. If I counted that right, I might be counting it wrong. Aquaman is the start of the next one, so that'd be like 14, all the way down to the bottom. The one at the very end here where Age of Extinction is right now is that last place spot. So I'm going to try to swap this around as quick as possible to not keep you beautiful folks here all day. The Dark Knight going right up there. Where is it at? Lord of the Rings going there. Oh, no, sorry. Swap that back around. Looking at the rest of the movies up here. It's tougher than you guys think. I would probably go... Oh, no, Endgame's going next for sure. Nope, not there. Endgame, what are you doing trying to sneak into that second place spot, my dude? Not you. This going there. And then I'd probably say... this. No, I'd probably put Harry Potter ahead of Infinity War. Then the Avengers. Joker, I think, is better than the first Harry Potter. Skyfall, I think, is probably right there. No Way Home, actually, I'd probably put here. Jurassic Park. I think Jurassic Park is probably here. Joker, Skyfall, Harry Potter. Yeah, I'd probably do that. So that's the godlike tier all rearranged for you beautiful folks. Then we come down to the awesome sauce. I'm like like zoned in right now. I'm trying to get this all done. Let's see. This one is going to be a lot tougher, actually. So I would probably, looking at them, put Age of Ultron right here. Oh, it was there, and then it frigged off right quick. This one's a lot tougher than I thought. So I'd probably put Titanic. Actually, no, I'd probably put Dark of the Moon at the back. Star Wars, Avatar. No, I'd probably put Dead Man's Chest above Avatar. I'd probably put Dead Man's Chest above Aquaman, actually, too, to be 100% truthful with you all. This one's actually so much tougher. Toy Story 3 will probably stay there. I'd probably put The Last Jedi here. Probably put Top Gun Maverick. I could probably leave Top Gun Maverick. Actually, Top Gun Maverick I'd probably put there. The Lion King actually could probably end up here. Black Panther. Do I enjoy it? No, I definitely enjoy Iron Man 3 more than Black Panther. Rogue One I do enjoy more than them. Actually, I probably enjoy... Nah. Put it like that for now. This is tougher than I realized it was going to be. Star Wars there. Furious 7. I'd probably put that. Oh, no, that's definitely not better than Top Gun Maverick. Furious 7 probably... there. Let me have a brief little glance at this one. Iron Man 3. No, Iron Man 3 definitely isn't better than Toy Story 3. Probably not better than Top Gun Maverick. Toy Story 3 probably there, actually. Actually, I probably put Toy Story 3 a bump. The Toy Story 3 getting a bit more love in this video than I expected. Alright, we'll move down that one. That looks okay for now. Maybe not perfectly where I want it. I'd probably leave these ones... probably be more likely to watch Spider-Man again. Actually, no, I'd probably put Spider-Man there. Yeah, I'd probably leave those ones like that. These ones, the rest of the list, honestly, is probably pretty interchangeable. I'd probably put Incredibles 2 there, Finding Dory, Frozen... I'd probably put Toy Story 4 ahead of the Frozen movies, actually, and ahead of Finding Dory, most likely. These movies, I could care less. I'd probably put Minions at the back and then Age of Extinction there for those ones because I'm more likely to rewatch Age of Extinction than I am to rewatch the Lion King remake. Definitely more than likely to rewatch it than Minions. Let's see these ones here. The ones I'm more likely to rewatch are these ones. I'd probably put, even though I think it's the weakest, Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I think there's still enjoyable moments in there. Captain Marvel actually could probably go ahead of that one. Let's see, Despicable Me. I'd probably put Fate of the Furious, even though I do think it was the decline of the franchise. Definitely above Despicable Me. Probably above that. And then these ones are pretty interchangeable. At least I did enjoy elements of it. And then, yeah, that looks like that's probably my ranking if I actually took time to go through it and do like a full video that actually ranked them strictly, which who knows, I still might do maybe when a few more movies enter that $1 billion club, because you know what's coming. There's still a lot of huge movies coming out this year, so maybe even by the end of the year we might get another one of these and I'll do like an actual, you know, number 52 or 3 or 4 or whatever up to number 1 ranking. But for now, this is my ranking. This is the tiers that all the movies end up in, and of course, as always, back to me. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with which tier each movie ended up in. While you're at it, feel free to let me know which tier you would have put every single one of these movies in, or if you just want to share your ranking, or both, you can do that as well. But don't forget to suggest what godlike to not quite you'd like to see me cover next. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you. And while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.